Welcome into an all-new betting preview for this week's Open Championship. I'm Rick Gaiman, that right there, Andy Lack, and Andy Oh Mama. Here we go.
Yeah, is this your favorite major of the year? Where does it stack up for you against the other three?
No, I mean, listen, there's something special about, because we're going to go 260 days without a major championship. So there's something special about the flowers are blooming, the first major in 9 months, Augusta National, everything that comes along with that, the way that it's on the schedule and everything around it feels very special. But this is also such a pure championship, and it's so unique in its own way. So it's hard to, I don't think I'd say like it's my favorite, but I love it. And honestly, if they just flip spots on the calendar, I'd probably be like, yeah, the Open Championship is like the greatest major ever.
I think it's the major, and you could probably make this argument for the Masters as well, but I think it's the major who knows who it is the most.
Yeah.
I think it's the major that has the most solidified identity, right? I think the USGA sometimes struggles with marketing the US Open as the toughest test in golf and then wondering why everyone gets upset when somebody wins it at 9 or 10 under par. Whereas the integrity of the Open Championship has nothing to do with the winning score, right? Which is almost refreshing. It's a celebration of a different style of golf that we do not get to see on the PGA Tour from week to week. And I think to me, that's what makes it feel so special.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Any business tying itself to one idea, one ideology, and then not doing that is going to have a problem, right? It would be like if Apple, started offering, like really cheap products and like that would break in 5, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense. Or like whatever your main thing is, if you go against your DNA, you're going to be in big trouble.
Right. Whereas the RNA is basically like, look, we're going to go to these links golf courses. Right. And if we get some weather, then maybe the winning score's 2 under par. And if we don't get some weather, then maybe the winning score's 18 under par. But that's kind of really irrelevant in terms of the identity and the character of the tournament, right? This tournament, and I pray that we get some weather. I think, the last 2 Opens that we have played on the easier side. I think St. George's more so not because the course wasn't difficult enough, because we just didn't get much wind. And St. Andrews more so, it was firm, it was baked out. We did get some wind, but that's just a course that doesn't really penalize wayward misses in the same way that a Hoylake does. So I'm really excited this week. And we can talk about the weather a little bit if you want. It seems to be always changing every single time I click on it. Yeah. But I'm hoping for a week where it feels like we get restored to that. I don't think we'll see carnage, but at least restored to what really, really feels like links golf.
So we can walk the weather conversation into kind of the odds board here. So here's Thursday. You're basically looking at 9 to 14 mile an hour winds, gusts up to 16, basically all day. I don't think there's a huge wave advantage there, but I have kind of intentionally, Andy, I have not placed a bet yet.
Really?
Yeah. Tee Times just came out a couple hours ago or whatever, and I kind of wanted to wait as long as possible to see if there was going to be kind of an actionable wave advantage. So I have not made a bet yet. So I'm wide open here. I've got some guys start. I've got some guys circled. The 2 at the top, Scotty Scheffler, 7.5 to 1, Rory McIlroy, 8 to 1, John Rahm, 13 to 1. There's your big 3. What we're looking at right now is the odds checker grid. You can compare odds across the industry, make it easy to find that. Let's start with the big 3, Andy. Click to be made.
Yeah, for me, it's Scotty. And I think the 7 to 1 is a little bit of a different conversation than the 9 to 1 that I was able to grab earlier in the week. I really think it's a coin flip between Scotty and Rory this week. I genuinely will be surprised if neither of them are not relevant in this tournament on Sunday afternoon. I believe that at least one, if not both. I mean, how cool would a duel between the 2 of them be down the stretch? I don't know if we'll get that, but I will say I would be downright shocked if at least one of them is not relevant in this tournament coming down the stretch. To me, the reason why I gave Scotty the edge over Rory is really because of the odds. And those have kind of evened out now. But if I'm making a case for Scotty, I'm looking at all the numbers and I'm saying to myself, man, if he does not cap this season with a major, what a disappointment that would be, because I hope that what he is doing right now doesn't get lost to time. And I talked about this a little bit on the podcast I did yesterday, but it feels like going forward in the world of golf, the majors are the only things that we can really count on being there for us, right? Like if Scotty wins the FedEx Cup this year and has the best ball striking season of all time, what does that mean? Does the FedEx Cup exist 6 months from now, right? What is the FedEx Cup? What's a FedEx Cup point in Nuco, right? So to me, the only fitting way for this season to be remembered the way that it should be remembered is for Scotty to cap it off with a major. And maybe I'm being too romantic for it and hoping for what does feel right in golf. Although you could probably make the argument with Rory that may be the most romantic outcome, and golf is an incredibly cruel game that rarely gives us the genuine story that we want. But I'm still a dreamer and a believer, and I would be fairly shocked if one of those two players that I just mentioned is not hoisting the claret jug on Sunday.
I will bet one of them. I don't know which one it will be. I think I want to bet Rory, but I think what will end up happening is kind of what happened to me last week, which is I finally take a time to, take a moment to take a breath and say to myself, hey, you're an idiot. Like what Scotty Scheffler is doing from tee to green, what he is doing in a statistical way, and you love that stuff. Like he's doing it better than we've seen like in my adulthood, right? So I will probably end up getting to Scotty, but I will bet one of them.
Are we sleeping on Rahm just a little bit, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if let's just say that neither Rahm nor Scheffler wins the Open Championship and they both have kind of strong finishes to the season where, a couple more top tens, but maybe no wins, Rahm has to be player of the year, right? Because I know that there's all this noise around Scheffler, but if you're stacking up 4 wins, including the Masters versus 2 wins in the Players, Rahm has had the best season. He hasn't hit the ball as good as Scheffler, but he won the freaking Masters and 3 other times. So, how do you navigate that?
I will have plenty of exposure to Jon Rahm in probably some more like game theory ways. It looks like he's going to be kind of the odd man out or the forgotten guy or whatever you want to call it. I think he's going to be the lower owned version in DFS. I think that if you still have him available in one and done, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him in things like matchup markets. But I think I draw the line. I think I would just rather Scotty or Rory. I mean, Rahm's been great, but Rahm has also had the lower floor of the 3 all year long. Higher ceiling, maybe, yeah, definitely a higher ceiling too.
He's definitely the third banana in those 3
in the bunch.
Yeah, in the bunch. Deservingly so. They've been a lot better, and I agree about the lower floor with Rahm. I worry a little bit about his discipline. This is like a nitpicky shot selection thing, but I worry sometimes about his discipline on a golf course like Liverpool that penalizes wide misses. Rahm plays really aggressive golf. It doesn't, this is something that doesn't get talked about a lot in terms of like shot selection and how players play golf courses and what players play aggressively on certain golf courses and what players play more conservatively. It's something that I look at a lot, and we're not totally there with data yet, but I think there could be some more data on it in the future in terms of like club selection and accuracy with different club choices off the tee and stuff like that. I do worry a little bit more about Rahm's strategy on this golf course than a player like Scotty Scheffler. So that would be the knock against him. But man, if Rahm gets to 16-ish to 1, can't really fault anyone for making that wager.
Yeah, twice as long as what the other two are going to be. That next tier has a bunch of guys: Cam Smith, Brooks Koepka, Patrick Cantlay, Ricky Fowler, Victor Hovland, Tommy Fleetwood, Terrell Hatton, Xander Schauffele, all between 20 and 28 to 1. If I bet one of Scotty or Rory, I will probably not get to this tier. Now, I'll have my friends and family bet on Victor Hovland, but for me, I'm okay being out on Cam Smith. I'm probably okay being out on Cantlay. Probably okay being out on Xander and Hatton and Ricky. Like, I'm not super concerned about skipping this area, but should I be?
Well, where do you stand on a 22 to 1 Brooks? I would argue that that's one of the better numbers on the board.
So I've seen Brooks at each of the last 2 major championships, and the way that he hits the ball is like truly special. It is truly different than the way that a lot of guys hit the ball. So this is the scariest guy to not be betting, in my opinion. But again, I mean, you talk about, do you think, I know he's like, the refrain is always, oh, well, he like cut his teeth on the European Challenge Tour or whatever, right? It's like, oh, okay. So all of a sudden, is he like a Lynx style master, and he's got some good results at Open Championships, but that's also when he was kind of crushing everything, right? So I'm a little bit worried about this, but I'm not super worried. Like, if Brooks goes out and wins the Open Championship, it's going to be one of the most historic years we've had in quite some time. So I think I'm okay with that not happening.
Do you like just to compare him to his live counterpart, who do you think's more likely to win this week, Brooks or Cam Smith?
I think it's Brooks. I think Cam Smith's in trouble this week, honestly.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah.
I mean, this is such a demanding driving golf course, and
agreed.
It is not the old course, man. And
no. Or Kapalua, or Augusta National, or LACC, or all of these wide golf courses that Cam has had so much success on. And even if you want to throw out that he won the Players, he lost 5 strokes off the tee at the Players and gained 12 strokes putting. Yeah. If Cam wants to gain 12 strokes putting this week and beat me, I think I can live with that.
Yes, I'm fading him having like the best short game event in ShotLink history. Like that, I'm okay fading that. I actually think, I mean, talk about the other live. I think DJ at 33 is like very good number. I think DJ could absolutely, like what I saw at LACC where he kind of flipped what he did at Oak Hill. Like, give me that this week. Give me the 7.5 strokes gained in the ball striking categories. I think DJ's got a real good chance at this.
Yeah, I think there are a number of appealing live guys. My guys are the guys I like are kind of farther down the board and maybe for DraftKings purposes. But if we start to talk about this portion of the odds board, well, I don't want to shortchange one or two more guys before we get into the 30s and 40s. If I'm giving you Fowler or Fleetwood, who are you more inclined to hit your wagon?
Man. That's really good. I would say it's weird. I was looking this up the other day. Fleetwood's ceiling, like his 1-round ceiling is very high, but he's got a pretty low floor. I'm not super comfortable with it, but I would probably lean Ricky at this point. He's been awesome, dude.
Second here in 2014,
he's just a great links golfer in general. He's been awesome for 6 or 7 months. And I mean, he was that T42 last week is pretty, I don't think it tells the whole story, right? I mean, he was like in the mix for a while. So I think I'd have to give the nod to Ricky.
Yeah. There's a big correlation here between players that have succeeded at Liverpool and those who have also succeeded at TPC Sawgrass and PGA National, because the character and identity, I know those are Florida, Bermuda courses, but the nature of those golf courses is all about avoiding landmines and staying out of trouble and showing a lot of restraint and discipline off the tee in your strategy. And that's very similar to the questions that Royal Liverpool is asking you this week. Fowler's won at both of those places and finished second at Liverpool in 2014. I think gosh, off the top of my head, Fowler the only, it's probably Fowler, Scott, and Rory are the three guys in the field that have won both Sawgrass and Honda.
I can't think of any others off the top of my head.
Fowler, Adam Scott, and Rory. Both that have won both.
I think that's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. How about the next tier here? Starting to get into some longer shots, notables like Matt Fitzpatrick at 55-1, Bryson as long as 60, Wyndham Clark has already got a major championship this year, 60-1, the same odds as Tony Finau, who's kind of been in the hurt locker a little bit. And then so I haven't bet it yet, but I will absolutely bet Cam Young at. I have him at like 66. That's a joke to me.
Don't disagree. I mean, we are kind of nearing the stage with the way that technology is trending, where talent is beginning to trump links experience. This used to be a tournament that it was sacrilegious to pick a young American player that has it with no experience. And then Colin Morikawa broke the seal. I mean, Cam Smith also had 0 top 10s at an Open prior to winning. We saw Cameron Young finish second at St. Andrews in his first Open appearance ever. Now, this is a much different golf course than St. Andrews. And I think that St. Andrews was a better fit for Cam Young's game. But Cam Young's also finished second at a golf course like the Heritage. So some of these golf courses that require you to club down, he can do that.
His eclectic resume, where he's got like runner-up finishes at the Old Course, Harbor Town, Jackson Country Club of Jackson. You know, he finished in the Saudi, finishes second there. Austin Country Club. I mean, it is like the style of golf courses that he has had success on ranges far and wide.
Yeah, Riviera, Austin Country Club, another golf course that, you know, can get pretty windy and is more of a club down style test. So yeah, I mean, for me, the guy that I will throw out there that I have bet is Justin Rose. I bet Justin Rose at 55-1. I think I like him all the way down to 50. There were even some lingering 65s. I just love the way that he's been playing this season, and, you know, surprised at his DraftKings price. I think 60-1 is a really fair number. If I gave you Justin Rose has had a good enough career to be a 2 major guy, right? 1.5 gave you the over under of just, you know, there are a couple guys like Rose and Adam Scott and Sergio where it's like you probably put their over under at 1.5, right? And they're kind of all at 1. And then randomly guys like Zach Johnson are at 2 that don't feel like they deserve to be at 2. Right. So I mean, where would you put the over under on Rose for majors based on his career? 1.5.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he lost, and it's not like he hasn't had close calls, right? He lost in a playoff.
Tons.
Yeah. And he's been in the mix a lot, and it just really hasn't fallen his way as much as it probably should. No, and I agree. This is probably some of the best golf he's played in a long time.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Like 1 major for Rose doesn't feel wrong, but 2 majors doesn't feel wrong either. I'll tell you what, too, Hideki, are the hundreds available on Hideki still? Because that was the most agree. Yeah. So I bet a Hideki 100, overexposed myself because I thought that number was absolutely egregious. And then do we have Justin Thomas at triple digits? Are we getting there?
90, as short as 66, as long as 90 for JT.
Okay. So, you know, first of all, I will say this, winning an Open, winning a major without form is nearly unheard of these days. I think the last major that I could think of being won by a player without form is Phil at Kiowa, right?
Yeah.
Even he won on the Champions Tour, right?
And also like, okay, the guy had won nearly 50 times and had how many major championships at the time. It's like, it's not like it was no form and no experience. It's like, okay, no form, but now he's in the mix and he's a little bit dangerous.
I don't know if it's going to be this week, but we're going to wake up on a Thursday morning on PGA Tour Live. Maybe it's Sedgefield, maybe it's St. Jude's, maybe it's this week. And JT's going to be like 6 under through 11. And we're going to be like, oh, Justin Thomas is back. I mean, my numbers still suggest that he's not broken, that he's not as far off as maybe his results would suggest. But you can't win majors without form. And I think that's probably the thing holding me back from getting too liberal with my selections in this range.
Rombo is a big dog in the matchup market to both Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, plus 150 on both of those. Rory, a slight dog to Scotty Scheffler, plus 120. And then you can basically find any matchup you want. I'll be taking Ricky Fowler at even money over Cam Smith. There's a couple of other interesting ones that I was scrolling through here. I'm basically just going to try to pick on Cam Smith, I think. And then also, I'm pretty sure we didn't talk about him. I'll be in the Wyndham Clark market, top 10, top 20 matchup. Like the dude's been phenomenal. And I think you saw, because I think you replied to it. Michael Kim was like, oh, this reminds me a lot off the tee of Quail Hollow and LACC. Like, oh, yeah. Really? I know a guy who's won at both of
those. Yeah. Yeah. Wyndham is, well, what's interesting was, and I no shots to Michael Kim. He's probably right. He's at the golf course. I'm not. But what I thought was interesting was that he said that you need a draw off the tee.
Right.
And that the tee shots remind him of LACC and Quail Hollow. And of course, Wyndham Clark won at both of those places, hitting a banana slice. So, maybe a bit of a contradiction there, but if he feels that those tee shots are similar to those places, then yeah, Wyndham's an appealing option. Justin Rose Fitzpatrick. Justin Rose is an underdog over Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick's either going to miss the cut, or it's going to be Colin Morikawa irons interacting with the turf situation, because he came out on Monday and was like, my expectations are a top 30 finish. This is my worst major. Well, I think Rose is going to contend. So even if Fitzpatrick accomplishes his goal, I still think I'm going to win that matchup. So I would say Rose at plus 130 over Fitzpatrick is a steal.
They've got Burns on against a couple of guys trying to figure themselves out, and Justin Thomas and Max Homa. That's kind of interesting. What's the deal with Bryson?
I was going to ask, where do you stand on Bryson this week? Because there's a part of me that says Bryson's played well at the Players. Bryson's probably a smarter golfer than he gets credit for. He's had that similar track record to Cam Young, where he's actually been sneaky good on some of the golf courses that take driver out of your hands as well. And we know he's slimmed down, and at Oak Hill, he hit a ton of fairways. He was incredibly accurate off the tee at Oak Hill. And my issue with Bryson is on undulating golf courses with rolling topography. I don't like the way that his single length irons with slope. And that's why he struggled so much at Augusta. Correct. That's why he struggled at Kapalua.
Yeah.
Royal Liverpool is flat as a pancake.
Yeah. I just, so long-term, I like Bryson a lot, right? I think he's back in the right shape. I think he's getting it figured out. I'd be buying Bryson stock if I could. As far as Open Championship venues go, I think this is on the better side of things for him. It's very hard to quantify. Is he creative enough around the greens? Does he have those shots around and pop? There's still going to be some shots that I think the single length irons, or the fact that he's the engineer instead of the artist, I think is going to give him a lot of trouble. But I'm pretty torn on this. I want to buy long term, but I'm not sure I'm here.
I may find some he'll be low owned in DraftKings. He's not going to make my betting card. Although if you find like a 60, I've seen a couple 60s on him, 60s, 65s. There's definitely worse bets than you can make, but I still think there's other more appealing options that I trust just a little bit more.
We'll continue this conversation. We will take a look at the props market. Strokes are out very early. Got a couple of guys out there, and we will talk one and done. But first, we're going to take a quick break and see you on the other side.
Andy Lack is one of the nerdiest golf guys that I know, and I mean that as an absolute compliment. His knowledge of course architecture allows him to create some of the most actionable course previews available, and he offers up pure expertise on his own podcast, the Inside Golf Podcast. Twice a week, he offers course breakdowns, DFS, and betting strategy for every PGA Tour event, and he expands the universe by bringing on entertaining and knowledgeable guests who can offer a different viewpoint of the game that we love. Follow Inside Golf Pod on Twitter and download Inside Golf wherever you download podcasts.
And we're back. So here is the props market for this week. PrizePicks just released their first set of strokes. They've got 6 golfers out right now, and as we've seen throughout the week, more and more things will come out, like birdies are better, more players, et cetera, et cetera. But we've got 6 golfers, and they're the big names, Andy, anywhere between 69 strokes and 70 strokes for round 1. This is a par 71. What do we think that, to me, when we're doing this, we're trying to figure this out. If you can figure out the scoring average, you can basically unlock a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can then say, okay, well, this golfer gains X number of strokes this amount of time and yada, yada, yada. So round 1, Royal Liverpool, par 71. How difficult do we think this is going to be?
Well, I've gotten one of the most common questions I get this week is what's your winning score? So we can talk about that a little bit. I think that, well, let's put it this way. Rory won this tournament at 17 under par in 2014 in what I believe to be somewhat similar conditions than what we're going to get this week in terms of the turf conditions and the wind. And the par was changed from a 72 to a 71. So if you just subtract 4, then minus 13 feels about right. The course has gotten more challenging, but golfers have also gotten better and technology has improved in the last decade as well. So if I'm combining everything together, minus 12 to minus 15 feels like the zone for me, unless we get something crazy weather-wise. I think there's enough softness to this golf course still to prevent it from being true carnage. And I think the RNA will get funky enough with pin positions and have made a concerted enough effort to make this golf course tougher. I mean, all the bunkers have been moved to account for modern driving distances. And there's some really difficult crevices in these bunkers where sometimes if you land in a fairway bunker, there's no shot to the green, you're pitching out. Right. So minus 12 to minus 15 feels about right to me. And gosh, correct me if I'm wrong, and this can vary, but most tournaments that are won at 12 to 15 under usually feel like they have about an even par cut and an even par scoring average. Right? Like that feels about standard for me.
Yeah. Now that I agree with the vast majority of that assessment. I was also scrolling through and trying to find if any sports books have round 1 scoring props out.
And help us guide us. Yeah.
Yeah. So PointsBet, so they have Rory over 69.5 at minus 150. So you are getting the hook on the right side of more over 69 on Rory. Scotty Scheffler's is pretty spot on. Oh no, not really. His over is 69.5 as well, minus 150. Oh no, I'm sorry. I was looking back at Rory's again. Scheffler's is pretty spot on. Rahm's is probably not touchable. Let's see. Okay. They have Brooks over 70.5 at -121. That line on PrizePicks is 69.5.
Yeah, so maybe you take the over with Brooks, depending on how you feel about him this week. He does typically tend to like build momentum at majors as the week goes on. He did start like kind of slow at Oak Hill, and then really got better as the week went on. So, but I don't see any egregious misprices on these PrizePicks lines.
Not yet. There's only 6 golfers and strokes out, but these 3, Rory, Koepka, and Cam Smith overs are at least a half a stroke off on PointsBet, with the juice being on the over. Some of them even more. The Koepka one is, and the Cam Smith one, you're getting like a full stroke there. So that if you just want to blindly trust the books, those are the 3 early ones that I think you should be working into your entries.
Yeah, they usually, I hope they add some more golfers. PrizePicks will usually sometimes give us like the top 15 guys and then John Daly, which is always fun. Have you noticed that?
And it'll be like John Daly, like 77.5 or something like that, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
More than that.
So yeah, keep checking in on PrizePicks as the week goes on. Hopefully we'll get more options, but right now those lines seem pretty fair to me.
If you want to get involved, there is a code called Rick with a link in the description that'll give you $100 deposit bonus if you want to head over to PrizePicks and try to get those props in before they start to move, if you trust the boys over at PointsBet. All right, one and done. So this is kind of an interesting strategic week because we're getting down to the end of the year. It's $3 million for first. You can use the live guys, but you've probably used a lot of your big names. So you might have been like, this might be an easy week, Andy, because you're either just going to play Cam Smith or there's someone that you have earmarked for this week because you've gone through so many of your big names. I can tell you Cam Smith's going to be by far the most popular option, which I get, but outside of him, what are some other viable options for everybody?
I would say no matter what position that you're in, you should probably use the best player that you have left. I mean, I guess like I would imagine that the FedEx Cup playoff purses are pretty darn high too.
Yeah, they're bigger. This is, I think, 2.98, and the FedEx Cup, I think they use the elevated event one, which is like 3.6.
Gosh, Cam Smith, 34%.
Well,
so I would imagine that,
like, yeah, I mean, like everyone was not only planning on using him, but like, like this is the spot everybody's using Cam Smith.
Right. And you probably have already, if you're taking the live strategy, you've probably already used Brooks at one of the other 2 majors.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that they're not saying I did this. I'm surprised there aren't more people that saved Rory for Hoylake. Right? Like Rory's probably going to be
spots.
I know. And I couldn't contain myself either. I used Rory at the Master, so that's wonderful.
I think I used him at maybe API. I can't remember.
Yeah, well, at least he finished second there. What are Rory and Scheffler just as? Oh, Rory's up there at 13%. So people did do that.
I mean, Scheffler has just been used by everybody. He's at 3.2. So this is what I was talking about where, like, if you have Rahm available, 5% John Rahm, 12-1, 13-1, 14-1 at an Open Championship. Like, this is where I like deploying Rahm in the game theory-esque manners. Like, if I have Rahm available, no matter what my position is, I'm rolling him out.
100%. If I have Hovland available, I'm rolling him out. If I have Fowler or Fleetwood available, I'm probably rolling them out, right? I mean, I don't have anyone. I mean, really, I do, but I don't have many options. And I'm not playing Max Homa or Cameron Young or Patrick Reed or Taylor Gooch, right? Yeah. So I would say, well, because I was going to make the case for who I'm going to choose between the 2 of us, but you lead us off.
So we actually swapped last week.
And I think it was a smart move for myself, right?
Yeah, backfired for me because it was Matt Fitzpatrick and Tommy Fleetwood. I originally took Fleetwood. You took Fitzpatrick. I said, hey, do you want to swap? Because I think I want Fitzpatrick more. And Fitzpatrick missed the cut. Fleetwood got 261,000. So you are 700, 2.7. That's only 2 point. You could take the lead this week.
Wow. Lurking. What do they say about one and done? 2.5-ish million is the most dangerous lead in golf, right?
That's right. It's not over until you're 10 million behind, is what they say.
Right.
I do not like this. And I think I did this at Rocket Mortgage too, where I was like, I do not like Tony Finau, but I have to take him. I do not like Cam Smith, but I have to take him.
I was going to take him.
You know, I have to take him. I don't want to. I wish I had DJ left. I don't. I wish I had Brooks left. I don't. I got to take him.
Oh, wait. I screwed this up in my head. I'm going to take Brooks.
Yeah, you do have Brooks available.
Yeah, I'm going to take Brooks. I had it in my head that for some reason I had used Brooks at the U.S. Open. I had actually used Xander at the U.S. Open. And so I was preparing myself to take Cam Smith. I'm going to take Brooks.
Battle of the Live Boys.
Yep.
Cam Smith versus Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
3 million up top. Chance to take the lead. All right. That'll do it.
Should we get to some of these questions real quick? There's a lot.
So we kind of answered if people were paying attention. So like there was a question here, like who are you buying between Rory, Rahm, and Scotty? Like just rank these guys based on their betting odds. I mean, I think it's Scotty 1 for you, Rory 2, Rahm 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Fading Cam Smith. We already talked about that. Here's a golf course question. It was kind of talked about it with Michael Kim talking about dog legs and shot shapes, but I don't know. Has that been debunked with the Wyndham Clark, LACC, Wells Fargo comps?
Well, I think what Kim was touching on was how the wind is going to interact with the golf ball on this golf course. Because LACC and Quail Hollow do not have 6 dog legs left, but potentially because of the wind coming from the west at Royal Liverpool, that is going to aid a draw shot shape. But I mean, the courses that I've looked at that have a lot of dog legs are courses like TPC Sawgrass, right? So those are the courses that if you want to talk about whole descriptions and layouts, those are, I think, the courses you want to look at.
Noticeably softer than it was in 2014, much more green. They've had more winds, more rain. And we saw in the past, you didn't necessarily have to drive her around this place, at least early in the week, Andy. It's kind of driver heavy at the moment. We'll see.
Yeah, totally. That could change, but we've got some rain still in the forecast for this week. A lot of rain coming on Friday night and Saturday. That could have changed since the last time I looked at it, but more so the Rory year in 2014 than the Tiger year. When Tiger year was really brown, Rory year was a little bit more green. We're going to be closer to the Rory year in terms of turf conditions.
Yeah, remember Tiger hit 2 drivers all week or something like that. There was one more. Where can I find the best putters on slow greens? Go to RickRunGood.com, go to the custom model. I don't think we talked about Jordan Spieth.
Wait, somebody asked, so are you really going to be surprised if Scotty and Rory don't win or be in contention for the Open? It's golf, man. I would, yeah. I would be really surprised if one of them's not in the mix on Sunday.
It's golf, man. Real quick, last thing. 0 out of 10 on Jordan Spieth. 10 is uber confident Jordan Spieth's going to win. 0 is this dude's a clown. No chance.
5.
Oh, what a cop out.
Right. I know. I mean, what would you say?
I will give him a 6 based on his Open Championship prowess.
Right.
But if this was the 3M Open, no, I shouldn't say that because the field would be a lot weaker. If this event was being played not in the UK, I'd be at like a 3.5.
I liked LACC for Spieth, and I liked the Renaissance Club for Spieth, and he missed a cut at both.
This is the worst form he's ever led into an Open Championship with. So I'm giving him a pretty big boost based on Open Championship stuff, because I'm like a 3 out of 5. I'll give him a 6 for this week.
Let me ask you this question: who's more likely to win this week, Spieth or Morikawa?
I'm in on Morikawa.
Okay,
dude. I think the most like overblown nonsense of this year has been this idea that Morikawa hasn't been very good.
He's been great. He's
great.
The second best iron player in the world behind Scotty Scheffler still.
So I think it is Colin. I would not be surprised. Talk about being surprised if who's in the mix. I would not be surprised at all if Jordan Spieth is in the mix at all, obviously. But I think Colin's got a real chance.
Okay, last one, because we're both very busy today, but you have me thinking now. Who's more likely to win this tournament? Cantlay, Xander, Morikawa, or Spieth?
Cantlay, Xander, Morikawa, or Spieth? Cantlay, Xander, Morikawa. I mean, Morikawa still, right? If I gave Morikawa the edge over Spieth, I have to give him the edge over two guys who have never won a major championship.
Cantlay or Xander, just between the two of them, who do you like more?
God, it's painful, but it's Cantlay, I guess. Cantlay's been freaking phenomenal. But yeah. If they are on hole 63 and at or near the lead, I have zero confidence.
Fair.
This is a good one. $100, an American or a European? Well, I guess that rules out like the rest of the world, but so it's a push if anybody else in the world wins. An American or a European?
I'm gonna say a European, because I get Rahm, Hovland, and Rory.
Rahm, and I was gonna say European too, because you get two of the big three.
But if you take you get two of the big three. But I think there are a lot of people that would argue that Brooks deserves to be in the big three. And so if you take an American, you get Brooks,
Cantlay, Xander. I mean, you'd get Spieth. You'd obviously get Morikawa. You'd get like a lot more guys, right? It's probably way more Americans in this field than there are Europeans. Right.
True.
Or at least in the top 50 of the betting lines.
True.
All right. Andy Lack is available on Twitter at ADP Lack Sports. His articles are available. He tweets them all out, but also he's got some great stuff on RickRunGood.com right now that you can go check out for more information. Big thanks to producer Mina. She does all the hard work behind the scenes. And I think that'll do it. We can get out of here. See ya.